My boyfriend told me he loved me, wanted to marry me, and could picture our future together. He just needed me to become someone else first. The first time Brandon said it that plainly, I thought I had misunderstood him. We were sitting in his car after dinner, parked outside my parents' house. The engine was off, and I already had one hand near the door because it was getting late. We had been talking about marriage. Not as some distant possibility. We had been together for 2.5 years, and marriage had been part of the conversation almost from the beginning. Our relationship had always required effort because we lived about 2.5 hours apart. We planned weekends around each other, rearranged schedules, and spent long stretches on the phone when neither of us could make the drive. Our families had become close too. His mother, Melissa, treated me like I was already part of the family. She remembered little things I mentioned once and brought them up months later. On my birthday, his family decorated their dining room and bought me a cake even though I had said I didn't want a big celebration. My parents liked Brandon. My brother, Aaron, liked him. For a long time, it felt like everyone assumed we were heading toward the same thing. Marriage. Brandon had also recently gotten a stable job after several years of changing direction. Before that, he had tried building a business, spent time day trading while living with his parents, and gone back to school before finally settling into something steady. I had never held that period against him. But once his life became more stable, I thought one of the biggest reasons for waiting had disappeared. So that night, I asked him, "Do you think we're getting close?" He looked straight through the windshield. Close to what? I gave him a look. You know what? He went quiet before saying, I just don't think we're ready yet. I turned toward him. He sighed. You know what I mean. No, I actually don't. He rubbed his hands together. There are still some things I need to see. Something in my stomach tightened. What things? I just want to know we have the same mindset. About what? Life. Growth. Health. Money. I stared at him. Then he finally looked at me. And, honestly, your body is part of it. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My body? I knew you were going to take it like that. How am I supposed to take it? I'm not saying I don't love you. That's not what I asked. He leaned back in the seat. I'm saying physical health matters to me. You know that. I did. Brandon took fitness seriously. He trained consistently, paid close attention to what he ate, and treated exercise as part of his identity. To him, fitness wasn't just about appearance. It represented discipline. Over time, I realized discipline was also one of the ways he judged people, including me. When we first met, I had recently lost 40 pounds. I was proud of myself because it had taken months of consistency. I had changed my diet, exercised regularly, and kept going through the frustrating periods when progress felt slow. Brandon noticed. At the beginning, he noticed everything. He told me I was beautiful. He told me I was different from anyone he had met. He talked about our future with so much certainty that sometimes it felt like he had decided who I was before he had really gotten to know me. At first, I loved it. He made me feel chosen. Then, a few months into the relationship, something changed. During one argument, he admitted that he had put me on a pedestal. I had rose-colored glasses on, he said. I thought you were basically perfect. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. And now? He paused. Now I see you realistically. That sentence stayed with me because, after that, compliments became rare. The man who once noticed everything good about me slowly became the person most likely to point out what needed improvement. At first, it was money. Brandon loved investing. He could talk for hours about companies, markets, risk, and long-term wealth. I couldn't. Early in our relationship, I made what I thought was an innocent comment. I said, honestly, when I'm married, I'd probably be fine letting my husband handle most of the investing if he understood it better than I did. I thought Brandon would like that. He didn't. So you just don't want to learn? That's not what I said. It kind of is. No. I said if my husband enjoys doing it and knows more than me, I wouldn't mind letting him take the lead. That's a dangerous mindset. I laughed a little. I'm not saying I want to know nothing about our money. But why wouldn't you want to learn? I could learn if I needed to. You should want to. That was the first time I realized he didn't see a lack of interest as simply a difference in interests. He saw it as a flaw. To Brandon, if something was useful, an ambitious person should want to master it. I tried to explain that two people didn't have to be equally passionate about everything. He loved investing. I didn't. That didn't mean I was irresponsible. I worked hard, saved money, and had interests of my own. Still, I bought books. I learned more about investing. I opened accounts, built a diversified portfolio, and learned enough to understand what I owned and why. I was glad I did. But Brandon still wanted more. You should research individual companies. I already invest. That's not the same. I know. You'd understand more if you actually studied it. Sometimes I let the comments go. Other times they irritated me. But eventually I started asking myself a question I had never asked before meeting him. Was I ambitious enough? Part of me knew the question was ridiculous. But when someone you love repeatedly points out where you could improve, eventually you start seeing yourself through their eyes. Then came the injury. About a year into our relationship, I hurt my leg badly enough that my normal exercise routine stopped. At first, I thought recovery would take a few weeks. It took much longer. Every time I started feeling better, I would overdo something and end up frustrated again. During that period, I gained back about 20 of the 40 pounds I had lost. I noticed before Brandon said anything. Of course I did. My clothes fit differently. I avoided certain pictures. I looked at old photos and remembered how hard I had worked. I didn't need anyone to point it out. But Brandon did. Not cruelly. That was part of what made it so confusing. If he had insulted me, I would have known exactly what I was dealing with. Instead, everything was framed as concern. You know you can still control your diet. I know. You don't have to wait until your leg is completely better. I know. Calories still matter. I know, Brandon. I'm just trying to help. I didn't ask for help right now. Then he would go quiet, and somehow I would end up feeling guilty for getting upset with someone who claimed he was only trying to care about me. That became our pattern. He would point out something I needed to change. I would get hurt. He would explain that he was saying it because he loved me. Then I would question whether I was overreacting. The difficult part was that I still believed Brandon was a good person. He wasn't cruel for the sake of being cruel. He didn't scream at me or call me names. He could be generous. He loved his family. When someone close to him needed help, he showed up. That made everything harder to understand. I kept wondering whether this really was love, and I simply didn't like being challenged. But there was one thing I couldn't explain away. Affection. After the first few months, Brandon almost completely stopped complimenting me. I wasn't asking for constant reassurance. I just wanted to feel like he still saw something in me besides potential improvements. Sometimes I would get dressed for dinner and wait for him to notice. Nothing. I would tell him something I was proud of. Good job. That was usually it. Eventually, I asked him directly, "Do you ever think nice things about me?" He looked offended. "Of course I do." "Then why don't you say them?" "I'm just not like that. You were like that when we met." "That was different." "How?" "I don't know. It was the beginning." That answer hurt more than he seemed to understand. One night, I finally said, "Sometimes I don't even know what you like about me." He frowned. "What are you talking about?" "You tell me what I should improve all the time." "That's because I care about you." "I know. But sometimes I want to hear something you actually appreciate." "I tell you I love you." "That's not the same thing." "How is that not the same thing?" "Because I don't always know what you love." He didn't answer. Eventually, he reached over and took my hand. "You know I love you." I nodded. But I didn't feel better. A few months later, we had another conversation about affection. That was when he said something I still haven't forgotten. "I think maybe I would naturally be more affectionate if you were more on my level physically." I stared at him. He immediately tried to explain. "I'm not saying you're unattractive. You just said you'd be more affectionate if my body were different." "That's not exactly what I said." "It is. I'm talking about lifestyle." "No. You said physically." "Because physical fitness matters to me. My leg is injured." "I know. Then what do you want me to do?" "I'm not asking you to do something impossible." "Then what are you asking?" He paused. "To show me that this matters to you." That idea kept coming up. I needed to show him that investing mattered to me. That health mattered. That growth mattered. That I was ambitious. The problem was that every time I met one expectation, another seemed to appear. I learned about investing, and then I needed to research individual companies. I already worked hard and had built a stable life, but apparently I still needed to read more personal development books. I had lost 40 pounds before getting injured, but now I needed to prove that I still had the right mindset. There was always another version of myself somewhere ahead. Still, I stayed because there were good moments too. His mother would call me just to talk. Our families spent time together. Brandon and I still laughed during long drives and had days when everything between us felt easy. Sometimes I would look at him and think, this is still the man I'm going to marry. Then we would have another conversation about improvement, and I would leave feeling like I still hadn't qualified. Once Brandon's life became more stable, I brought up marriage again. Do you actually see us getting engaged soon? He became quiet. Finally, he said, I see us getting married. That wasn't the question. I know. So? He looked uncomfortable. I just think there are some things we need to work through first. He gave me a look. I almost laughed. Just say it. I want us to be aligned. About what? Everything we've already talked about. Brandon. He looked away. Your health is part of it. There it was again. So you won't propose because I gained weight after getting injured? That's not what I'm saying. It sounds like exactly what you're saying. No. You're making it about a number on a scale. Then explain it. I care about mindset. I laughed once. Of course you do. What's that supposed to mean? It means every criticism somehow becomes about mindset. That's not fair. Then tell me what happens if I lose the 20 pounds. He blinked. What? If I lose the weight. Then what? I don't know. Exactly. No, Chloe. You're turning this into a checklist. You made it one. I did not. Invest more. Read more. Save more. Lose weight. That is such a simplified version of what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? I want a partner who is always trying to grow. I am growing. I know. Do you? Of course. Because it never sounds like you do. He rubbed his forehead. I hold myself to a high standard too. I never asked you not to. I'm ambitious. So am I. I know. Stop saying you know when everything you say suggests the opposite. His jaw tightened. You're getting defensive. And you're avoiding the question. What question? Am I enough for you right now? He went silent. I waited. Finally, he said, I love you right now. Something inside me sank. That wasn't my question. I'm trying to answer you. No. You're trying not to. He leaned forward. What do you want me to say? I want the truth. The truth is that I think both people should keep improving in a relationship. That still isn't an answer. I was tired by then. Would you marry me as I am today? He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He said, why does everything have to be so absolute? That night, I went home and cried quietly in the bathroom because I didn't want my parents to hear. Not because I needed a ring immediately. What terrified me was realizing that I had no idea where the finish line was. Maybe I could lose the weight. My leg was improving. I could read more, study more, and push myself harder. But what if I did all of that and he still found something else? What if the problem was that the version of me he loved most was the version he imagined before he really knew me? I started replaying the beginning of our relationship. The certainty. The intensity. The moment he admitted the rose-colored glasses had come off. Maybe I had spent 2 years trying to become the woman he thought I was during the first few months. Eventually, I talked to Aaron. My brother doesn't automatically take my side, which is sometimes exactly why I trust him. We were sitting in my parents' kitchen late one evening when I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. I understand part of what Brandon means. My heart dropped. Of course you do. Let me finish. Fine. He takes fitness very seriously. So yes, I can understand why he would want a partner who values it too. I looked away. But, Aaron continued, there's a difference between wanting compatibility and keeping commitment hanging over someone's head. I looked back at him. That's what bothers me. I know. It feels like a reward. He nodded. Marriage shouldn't feel like, complete these tasks and then maybe I'll choose you. I swallowed. But what if he's right? About what? What if I have let myself go? You got injured. I could have eaten better. Probably. The answer irritated me because it was honest. Then he said, you can decide you want to lose weight. That's fine. But you need to ask yourself whether you're doing it because you want to feel better or because you're scared he won't marry you otherwise. I didn't answer. Aaron looked at me. That silence is probably your answer. After that conversation, I started noticing how much of my life had become a performance. I sometimes chose food while imagining Brandon's reaction. I felt guilty resting. I bought books because I thought finishing them would make him respect me more. I brought up my investments hoping he would finally sound impressed. I had turned ordinary parts of my life into evidence that I was disciplined enough to be chosen. So I stopped doing that. I still took care of my leg. I adjusted my diet because I wanted to feel better. I continued investing. But I stopped reporting every improvement to Brandon. One afternoon, he asked, how's your portfolio doing? Fine. What are you invested in now? The same things mostly. You haven't looked into anything new? No. He frowned. Why not? Because I don't want to. He looked surprised. You should still be learning. I am learning. Then why wouldn't you want to know more? Because I'm allowed to not be interested in everything you're interested in. He leaned back. Where's this coming from? Brandon, do you know what I like? What kind of question is that? A simple one. Of course I know what you like. Okay, what do I care about most? He started answering. Some of it was right. Some of it was surface level. Then I asked, how often do you ask me to become more interested in the things I already care about? He went quiet. You tell me to care more about investing because you care about it. You tell me to read the books you think are useful. You want me to approach fitness the way you do. That's because those things improve your life. According to you. According to basically everyone. No. According to you. He shook his head. You're making me sound controlling. I didn't call you controlling. You're implying it. I'm asking whether you want a partner or a reflection. That landed. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he said, that's unfair. Maybe. Then tell me what parts of me you actually admire that have nothing to do with who I could become. He opened his mouth, stopped, then said, I love how much you care about your family. I waited. You're loyal. You're smart. You work hard. Those were the exact things I had spent years trying to make him notice. I said quietly, then why do I always feel lazy around you? His expression changed. I never called you lazy. You don't have to. That's how I feel. For once, he didn't argue immediately. I said, I've spent this relationship wondering when I'm finally going to reach the version of myself you can fully love. He looked up sharply. I do fully love you. Then why is affection waiting for me at a lower weight? That's not what I meant. You said you would probably be more affectionate if I was more on your level physically. I explained what I meant. No. You explained why you thought saying it was reasonable. He looked away. My eyes were burning, but I kept going. I'm not asking you to pretend attraction doesn't matter. I'm not asking you to marry someone you don't want. But I need you to understand what this has done to me. He was quiet. I don't know whether you're trying to help me or whether you simply don't like me as much as you think you do. That's not true. I don't know that anymore. I love you. I know you say that. His face fell. And I hated that hurting him still hurt me. He reached for my hand. This time, I let him take it. I don't want someone else, he said. Then why do I feel like I'm constantly competing with someone who doesn't exist? He didn't have an answer. A week later, Melissa called me. She had no idea what was happening between us. She talked about a family gathering and told me she had seen something in a store that reminded her of me. Then she said, you know, I keep telling Brandon he better not wait forever. Normally, I would have laughed. Instead, I went quiet. She noticed. What's wrong? Nothing. Don't do that. What happened? I almost told her. Then I stopped myself. Whatever happened between Brandon and me couldn't be decided by his mother. We're just figuring some things out. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, well, for whatever it's worth, we love you. That almost broke me. Because I knew she meant it. And somehow being loved so easily by his family made it more painful that being loved by him felt so complicated. I didn't break up with Brandon that week. Maybe some people would have. But real relationships don't always end the moment someone says something painful. Sometimes you stay because you still love them and because 2.5 years of your life cannot be emotionally packed into a box in one afternoon. So we kept talking. Brandon insisted he had never meant to make me feel like I had to earn marriage. I told him intention didn't erase impact. He said he wanted a partner who challenged herself. I told him I wanted a partner who could love me without turning every weakness into a project. He said physical attraction mattered. I said honesty about attraction was different from attaching commitment to a future version of my body. Neither of us managed to convince the other. My leg continued improving, and I slowly became more active again. Some of the weight started coming off. But by then, even encouragement from Brandon felt complicated. One weekend, he wrapped his arms around me and said, "You're doing really well." My body stiffened. He noticed. What? Nothing. Chloe. I stepped away. I don't know how to receive that from you anymore. His face changed. I was complimenting you. I know. So, what's the problem? I can't tell whether you're proud of me or relieved that I'm becoming more acceptable. He stared at me. That's a horrible thing to say. I know. Then why would you say it? Because that's honestly how it feels. He walked away. That night, we barely spoke. The next morning, he asked whether I still wanted to marry him. I looked at him for a long time. 2 years earlier, I would have answered immediately. Instead, I said, I don't know. He looked genuinely shocked. What do you mean you don't know? I mean exactly that. But you've always said you wanted to marry me. I did. Did. I still love you. That's not what I asked. I almost smiled at the irony. Then I said, I spent so much time worrying about whether I was enough for you that I forgot to ask whether this relationship was enough for me. He didn't answer. There was no dramatic breakup. No screaming. No secret affair. No sudden confession that explained everything. Just two people sitting across from each other, finally facing a problem neither of us could solve with another book, another diet, or another promise to try harder. We're still together. But things are different. I no longer ask when he is going to propose. He no longer brings up my weight as a condition for marriage. Whether that means he finally understands or has simply learned not to say it out loud, I honestly don't know. I'm still working on my health, but now I'm trying to do it for myself. I still invest, but at my own pace. I still care more about family and the people I love than turning every free hour into another opportunity for self-improvement. A few nights ago, Brandon asked me where I thought we would be a year from now. I don't know, I said. He looked hurt. Do you still see a future with me? I thought about the version of myself who once wanted nothing more than for him to choose me. Then I thought about all the times I had stood in front of a mirror wondering whether I had finally become marriage material. I see a future where I'm not constantly trying to prove I deserve one. He didn't answer. And that is where we are. I still don't know whether Brandon loves me in a way I can live with, or whether we simply expect completely different things from love. Maybe his standards are reasonable. Maybe the way he used them as conditions changed something between us that neither of us knows how to repair. But I know one thing now that I didn't know when I first asked him about marriage. If Brandon proposed tomorrow, I'm no longer sure I would say yes. And after everything, maybe that is the change neither of us expected.